Bandwidth Boys Podcast. We talk about stuff, tech stuff.
Hello! Welcome to the holiday Christmas edition of the Bandwidth Boys Podcast. I'm Connolly.
And I'm Matt.
As you can tell, someone is not here. He is He is too cool for school. So Matt and I will have to hold down the fort. So hopefully we'll be out in under an hour, maybe.
Do we have
Discussion.
a 3 strikes rule or anything?
We're at number 2, strike number 2. But Greg's out at he's on vacation, so Matt and I will bring up the show. So without any further ado, let's get into it, shall we?
What's going on in tech world?
Pandora, one of the biggest music streaming services, will have to pay a little more to offer you music. Earlier this week, the Copyright Royalty Board, a panel of 3 federal judges in Washington, made the decision to increase the royalty rate from 11 cents for every 100 streamed songs to 17 cents. The new change goes into effect in 2016 and will run through 2020. Pandora hasn't been well-liked by the record labels due to their low-cost agreement, but earlier this year, Pandora has been mending those relationships, agreeing to pay a $90 million fee for older songs, whatever older means, but hasn't gone as far as negotiating with individual record labels like other companies, such as Apple Music.
Shopping industry? Check. Online textbook sales? Check. Domination of book sales? Check. Online streaming? Well, almost check. Amazon this week released their upcoming season of online streaming, and they are making a clear message that they are all in when it comes to the original programming market. Amazon green-lit 6 fall pilots, the most since their programming began about 3 years ago.
Millions of Brazilians, wow, that rhymes, that's impressive, had to look up from their phones on Wednesday as courts in Brazil shut down the popular texting app WhatsApp. But by Thursday, all was right again in the world. The app was restored. A higher court ruled Thursday that it was unconstitutional. Quote, "It's unreasonable to punish millions of users because of the lapse of one company," close quote, said Judge Xavier de Souza. The judge says, citing the lower court's unconstitutional decision to take down the network after company executives allegedly failed to comply with a court order to turn over data as part of a criminal investigation.
1 step forward and 2 steps back, that's the autonomous car industry. This week, a judge in California ruled that self-driving cars will need to be equipped with a steering wheel and pedals to drive on public roads, so an onboard human who is also required can take over at any time. Google criticized the proposal, saying the company was gravely disappointed that California's writing a ceiling on the potential for fully self-driving cars.
And finally, Apple named potentially their future CEO, a Tim Cook lookalike. CEO Tim Cook announced Thursday his second-in-command, Jeff Williams. In a statement, Cook said, quote, "Jeff is hands-on, the best operations executive I've ever worked with. This promotion comes at a time when Apple is under extreme pressure to succeed in the global smartphone market. The company is likely heading into a much riskier world and more complicated area next as it ramps up development of its own car." Matt, wrap it up.
And that's a wrap from what's going on in tech world. I apparently can't read.
I caught you off guard there.
I know.
So, as you can tell, I'm not at my house in Pullman, and neither is Matt. So, if you're watching the podcast or watching the video part of the podcast, you'll see my cool garage that I'm hanging out this week. This is what I do a lot: is work on cars.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Matt just boring blue room, but this is my set. This is my home when I'm not in front of my computer. Ask me any car question, I can name it for you.
That's our next segment.
Next segment, moving on, the big talk. So we know that the Christmas season, there's a lot of tech gadgets that are given to kids, to adults, to grandparents. It's just a techie world out there. So we figured we'd take a few minutes today to kind of warn you and kind of help you figure out what you do with the smartphone when you get it, or the tablet when you get it, or if you're increasing your internet connection from Time Warner to Fios, what you can do to kind of lock your system down. So the first thing I want to go over is smartphone. So if you kind of get if you get a new smartphone, which seems to I think would be a popular gift this year, right? With Samsung, the iPhone 6 or 6S or 6 Plus. What are we on now?
6S and 6S Plus.
Oh, Jesus, God bless Apple. The smartphone seems like a kind of popular Christmas gift, as it is kind of year after year. Wouldn't you say so?
$1. You can get it for $1 at Christmas time.
If you sign their 3-year contracts or whatever they put you behind,
it's still $1.
It's still $1. So
you're gonna have it anyway, right? What's the difference?
I guess so. So what are some things that I would do if I got a smartphone for Christmas? Well, one of the first things I would do is make sure that all of my contacts, all of my pictures are backed up somewhere. Whether you're using Android in the Google service or using iCloud in the iOS system, just make sure everything's backed up. Before you even go to your new phone, make sure everything on the old phone, the contacts you need, everything is backed up in the cloud. Wouldn't you say, to make that transition a little easier for you?
Yeah, and I was going to ask, I know iCloud, and I probably should know this. Android has an equivalent. Does it work well?
Oh, yeah, it works. It's called Gmail.
Oh.
It all gets uploaded to the Gmail.
And then, like, Google Pictures and stuff is the thing, right? So it's basically photo
It's called
stream.
Google Photos, but whatever you want to call it. It actually works a lot better than the iCloud.
Well, how so?
Because it works. Every time I tried to go to the iCloud for my wife's iPad, no idea how to use it.
I wouldn't necessarily attribute that to it being a bad service.
Nope, it's a bad service.
What do you mean you don't know how to use it?
Well, I go on there, and I don't even know where to go. You have to go to, like, iCloud.something.com, and I'm like, I just go to google.com.
Oh, are you talking, like, through the web interface?
Yeah, the web portal.
Oh, yeah, the web portal's awful.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. So whether you're going with iOS or an Android system, make sure you back it up. Because
I would say that's a good tip year round, is just make sure that those backups are on.
Oh, yeah.
Because you don't want to break your phone one day and find out that you weren't running it and you can't get anything off of it.
Right. Number 2, maybe before you back it up, do that spring cleaning or that winter cleaning of contacts. The person that you got their number for 15 years ago, we had cell phones 15 years ago? I guess people had Rolodexes. Whatever. Right? Those people that you went to school with, you saw them like once at the bars, you got their number. Clean it out. Don't you? For me, I don't like contacts building up in my phone if I don't use them.
Yeah, especially when you have multiples of or people with the same first name and you got to go through them all.
Right.
If you're never going to talk to any of them, what's the point of keeping them in your phone?
Or you have one that's like Bob and the next one's Bob Smith. Same person. You didn't merge it. One has the email, one has the mobile, and then another one has the home. So you have 3 different contacts for the same person. So take the time, go through your address book, kind of merge the right cells, make sure everything is correct, get rid of people that you don't normally talk to, and then back up to the cloud, right? Is that what you're saying? Kind of, it's a good start with your new phone. Don't clutter the new phone. You've spent this time cluttering your old phone, so go ahead, start fresh. Take the time to really go through the contacts, back it up. Even the pictures, right? Go through the pictures. Most pictures we take on our cell phone are just terrible. They're just meant for in moment, take a look at my screen or something like that. So go through the photos and delete those and really start off. So a lot of these tips for smartphones is really just a kind of cleaning type deal. Like take the time to clean it up before you muck up your new phone. So that's my number one thing. If you get a smartphone, take the time, clean it up, and then back it up to either the Google or iCloud, whatever service you use. I don't know. I wouldn't say Windows has a really good backup service, but I guess they call it the OneDrive or whatever. So make sure you back it up to OneDrive if you have Windows. And then that way when you go to your new phone, all you got to do is type in your email address, your password, boom, all the apps, all the contacts, and all the photos will be there for you just like that. So that's my number one tip. Matt?
Was I supposed to have a number one tip?
Well, just whatever. What would you do with new tech? I got some other things, but figure I'm talking a lot. All right, I'll keep going. And then Matt will just jump in. So another thing I recommend... Oh, what?
No, you're good. Go ahead.
Another thing I recommend you doing if you got a smartphone and you're giving it to a kid, and we talked about it a few weeks ago on the podcast, what do we do when I'm giving it to my kids? Well, same thing here. Go through the parental controls, turn on things that you don't want them to see, type in keywords you don't want them to find, and go into those individual apps like Netflix and say, my kid can only watch TVG, right? And then put a pin in there. So really lock down that phone right from the get-go so your kids can never discover those naughty parts on the internet and those naughty movies that HBO Go has. It makes it so readily available. Like, oh, okay, thanks HBO Go. But go through all those settings. Go onto like Matt demonstrated a couple of weeks ago on the Apple in the settings portion in parental controls. There's like a whole list of things you can turn on and off, and you can even turn off web surfing if you want to. So take the time, go through those parental, if it's for kid, and turn off in-app purchases. Whether you're on Google or iOS, turn off in-app purchases. Wouldn't you say so?
Yes. Because it's amazing how some of those in-app purchases don't even feel like in-app purchases.
Right. And so that leads me into my next tip. If you're getting a smartphone, most smartphones, I think, automatically set a data cap, or at least a reminder of data cap. But make sure you really go into those settings and match it up. And I would put it like a half a gig lower than your cell phone carrier lets you have it. So if you have a 10 gig cap and you're splitting it in between 5 phones, it's 2 gigs a phone. In my smartphone, I always say warn me at 1.5 gigs. That way I know. And the reason that led into the in-app purchases is because if you accidentally leave your Wi-Fi off when you're at home, or you flip it on and you flip it off, or you're on a car ride and you enable those in-app purchases, those downloads take data cap, and you have to be careful. Once you get to that 10, if you go over, no doubt a lot of companies will start charging you, and if they don't charge you, they're going to throttle you back to 3G or something like that. So turn on that data cap warning. And most cell phone carriers will send you a text, but just in case, it's always nice to have two reminders that, hey, I'm getting close to my data cap. My mom and dad have no idea what data cap is because they don't even get close to it, but I do because I get close to it sometimes. And so those reminders are pretty helpful, especially if you have kids who don't care if they're on Wi-Fi or not. I know Greg's daughters and son doesn't care if they're on Wi-Fi or not. They'll just stream their Netflix, and that's one of the quickest way to lose your data for that month. So turn on those data reminders.
And now that you point that out, unless you have an iPhone, because I don't think an iPhone can do that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think an iPhone will tell you how much you've used, but I don't think
Oh.
it will actively give you a count and an alert.
Oh,
I'm sure there's an app that you can have do it, but
Right.
natively it won't do that.
I mean, most times your cell phone carrier kind of warns you. Bleep, bloop,
Yeah.
You're at 75%, but it's always nice to have those extra ones.
Yeah, and while I'm looking at my phone, another thing I would say if you get an iPhone that seems to bother a lot of people, which I don't quite understand, is the Wi-Fi assist feature.
What is that?
Which is basically when your phone recognizes that your Wi-Fi isn't very strong or is slowing down, it'll automatically switch your phone off of Wi-Fi.
Oh,
onto
that's
LTE.
terrible. That's awful.
And it was catching a lot of people off guard because their Wi-Fi signal was just always bad, and they didn't realize that their phone was not using Wi-Fi. But it tells you, it says it LTE. But just make sure you toggle that off if you don't.
It's a small
want that.
icon, though, Matt. Small little icon at the top. Some people miss it.
But there aren't that many icons on your screen. So I don't
Well, for me and you, not a lot. But I can tell you, I've seen my parents' phone, and they never clear a notification off. So there's all these little icons at the top, and they're always like, what is this icon? What is this icon? I go, it's just letting you know the phone updated. Swipe it away.
Okay, well then you might just want to go and turn that on, but off by default then, because by default it's on.
There you go. What else do I got? Oh, whether you're getting a smartphone, a tablet, it's going to take a long time, but go through all the settings, right? Kind of look at what your sounds are like. If you get a phone call, what does that sound like? Because it's going to be completely new from your old phone, right? So you want to either change it so you know what the heck it is, or just leave it as is, but you want to know, hey, that's my new ringtone, right? You want to go through and see what your message sounds are like. You want to make sure that you're optimizing the battery life. You're making sure that the active screen is off or on, whatever you prefer, just to make sure that you're getting the optimal level of battery and to really get to know your phone in the sense of the basic functions of it. Wouldn't you say so? Kind of a thing to do on the first day?
Yeah, and I must say though with that you are far more patient than I. Because when I unwrap a device, I'm immediately on it and playing with it. I could not care less what things sound like.
Right. I mean, yeah. I'm the same way, but for most people that, this is a new smart, they get frustrated right out of the get-go because they want to, boom, get into it and start, and then everything is different, right? And if you don't spend that time to kind of learn the settings, and you're not quick at picking up things, then you'll just get pissed at your new phone and you'll push it away.
Oh yeah, that's definitely true though. The number of times I've had to tell my mom her phone was ringing and she didn't even know because she didn't know what her ringtone was.
So this podcast is for your mom. Just send the podcast straight to your mom when you give her a new iPhone 6.
And then ask
Um,
her for a sponsorship.
Right, and that too. And then also my last one is, after or phones, tablets come at what 50, 60% charge. You play with it all day. Just overnight, just make sure, just charge it up to make sure it's 100%, so that you're off the gate. I mean, I know battery, the old batteries used
Nickel
to,
metal hydride.
right, they used to memorize and things like that. And so newer batteries, that's not really a big concern. But there's nothing worse than playing around with it on day one, forgetting to charge it, and then on day two, when you're like, all right, I got this new tech, I'm going to go, and your phone is dead.
In fact, to the contrary, to point that out for new
To the
lithium batteries, it's
contrary.
the exact opposite. What?
I was just saying to the contrary.
Oh. Yeah, it's the opposite. Lithium ions actually, the life is based off of a cycle count, not off of a capacity. So if you imagine a battery has 1,000 cycles, if you discharge it to 0 and then charge it to 100, then you used up a full cycle. Whereas if it was only at 80% and you charge it back to 100, you only used a fifth of a charge.
Right.
So you don't necessarily want to always drain it.
But the first day you're going to drain it because you're playing around, you're looking at the settings and all that. So you just want to make sure it's all the way. But Matt, like Matt said, make sure that you're charging it when you can and don't drain it down to 0 all the time.
Exactly.
So with all this tech stuff, and now you're ready to kind of play around with getting onto the internet and things like that. Matt, how do we secure our home network? And how do we, let's say my family of 6, everyone gets a tablet for their for Christmas. How do we make sure that what we're watching or what apps we're running is running optimally on the internet using QoS and things that people who really want to tinker around with things?
Yeah, you can use QoS, quality of service. It comes on pretty much any router you'll buy now, except if you get it from Comcast or Time Warner. I don't know if those actually have.
God bless those services.
They assume you don't need it.
Right.
Anyway, it's great because you can assign certain ports, and so if you're into tinkering, this is for you. You can assign different ports for different services, and you can also assign different domains. And when your router sees things coming through those ports, it will prioritize that traffic over other traffic. So for instance, you can section off services like Netflix, and if it sees streaming video service, it will prioritize that traffic over like a web page, because it knows that if you're loading a web page, it needs less data, and if it has a break in data, it's okay because the web page will load anyway, versus video will just drop out and make you buffer. So that's nice to do.
So would we turn on that QoS directly on the router, or how do we access that QoS page in some other router settings?
Yeah, you'll just log into your router, and if you don't know how to log into your router, then
you probably shouldn't be doing this.
Yeah, I wouldn't tinker around with this, because if you do the QoS wrong, you can actually screw things up more. A lot of the easier to use QoS is you'll just plug in what your up speed is and what your down speed is, and then it will do the calculations on its own. Those are the easy ones. The more complicated ones, you can manually do everything. But yeah, if you just log into your router, all those settings are available to you.
So what about we get a router. We don't really know what to do, but we want to make sure it's secure. So my neighbor's not taking some of my bandwidth. What's some of the things we can do to make sure that my internet stays my internet?
99.9% of the routers that you buy now they'll come pre-secured, and they'll give you a card with a SSID, which is your network name, and they'll already have a password set to it, and it will probably be a pretty complex password. What I would do is follow the instructions that comes with it. Log in. First of all, change your admin password to get into your router. That's not the password for your network, but the password for your actual router.
And everyone should do this, right? Whether you're techie or not so techie, you should probably lock down your router so that no one gets into it.
Yeah, it's a good idea. And then I would go in and change your SSID to something that you will know that's not like Netgear 5G, which is what it probably will come with if it's a Netgear. And then you can also make a password or a network key that isn't random numbers and random letters, because that really isn't any more secure than if you just use a sentence.
My Bonnie lies over the ocean. Period.
Is more secure than random letters and
Matt loves my passwords because they're random, and I rely on LastPass.
Yeah, that's not how passwords work.
But
that's fine. To each their own.
That's what I'm saying. So what about, I know in the, when I first got a router, I don't know, 8 years ago or something, hiding my SSID was kind of a big deal. What about now? Do we have to hide our SSID anymore, or just make sure that password is really strong.
Yeah, I don't think hiding it's really necessary anymore. Just because it's so easy to find a hidden network now that even if it is hidden, it doesn't really make a difference. The other thing, or the one thing I would look at, however, if your router supports it, is a lot of routers now can do a scan of all the channels that are being used. Your router will operate on a channel between 1 and 11. One in the ideal channels are 1, 5, and 11, just because they're the furthest apart from each other and they don't overlap. So if you see someone run it using channel 11, then you probably want to put yours in 5 or 1, ideally 1, because it's the furthest away, and that way you won't get interference from other people's networks.
Sweet. One thing I wanted to mention that I forgot to when we were talking about smartphones and tablets is from the time that it got shipped to the store, like AT&T, chances are it's got a really old, or not really old, but it's got an old firmware on it. So one of the first things you should probably do is look for any kind of updates that your phone should have, or your tablet, and to make sure you're running on the most current OS system. Is that not a good thing to do when you first get your phone or tablet?
Oh yeah, and I'm sure it will annoy you with a pop-up as soon as you turn it on.
Yeah. So, but you want to make sure you run that before you kind of start tinkering with things, because sometimes, big updates will kind of do some weird things to the OS, and some of your data. I mean, not all the time, but some of your data will kind of disappear, things like that. So, make sure, don't just ignore that update if it pops up, but run that update.
Exactly.
Anything else that people should do when they open their box of goodies, some tech stuff? What's up?
Have fun with it.
Oh yeah, there you go.
You got a new toy. Enjoy it.
Matt, what are you buying for me? I mean, it's Christmas. Aren't you buying something?
That's a surprise.
Oh. That's my gift to you. There you go. Merry Christmas. But yeah, have fun with your tech stuff. I mean, there's nothing cooler than getting something brand new and getting to tinker around with it. And the best part for me is getting pissed off at it because it's not doing what I need it to do. And then a couple hours later, I figure it out and I go, oh, that's pretty cool. But that's just me.
I would say buy a case for it. That would probably be my biggest tip, because you don't want to be that guy that scratches it the day after you get it and then it bothers you for the
I don't have a
rest of the
case.
time you own it.
I don't got a case.
Well, your phone's made out of plastic.
Whatever. All right. That's a wrap on the Big Talk.
What's on Matt's mind?
Let's dive into that wonderful world of Matt's mind. What's going on, Matt?
What is going on? 4 letters, CISA. Have you heard of it?
Nope.
Every week I ask that whenever I say something. I'm always hoping one week someone will say, oh yeah, I know all about that. The Cybersecurity Information Sharing Act, or CISA, was just signed into law. And there's a few things about it. Well, I guess I'll start off by explaining what it is.
That would be
Basically,
great.
The CISA, or CISA, I guess is how you could say it.
Whatever.
It's basically an Information Security Act that was folded into the last Spending and Budget Act, which was just signed into law a few days ago by President Obama.
Who is now vacationing in Hawaii, huh?
Yeah, for 2 weeks.
All right, sorry. Back to your mind.
And basically what it does is it provides legal immunity to corporations in America when they want to share private data whenever they get hacked or whenever there's a digital breach. It gives them immunity for sending that data to Homeland Security. And it basically, some people are equating it to the new Patriot Act, which I think is a bit extreme because it's not that widespread. But it is basically an act that says that a company can send all your personal information to the government and there's no recourse and there's nothing preventing them from doing that. The part about the whole thing that kind of is irking people is the fact that it was literally just folded into the budget deal. It was on page 1,728 of the 2,000-page bill, and it was just folded in. It's not related at all to the budget, but they knew that if they put it in there, they could get it passed.
Isn't that how every law is passed, though, here in the United States, just rolled into something else?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's kind of ridiculous because even to the point where the president isn't able to do a line by line veto because that was ruled unconstitutional. So either he has to accept the whole thing
Right.
and let this pass, or reject the whole thing, and then the government shuts down. So this is kind of a twofold argument. One is that you can do that, and two is that this thing was passed and really no one's talking about it.
But Matt's talking about it.
I am talking about
So I mean,
it.
how do you think it should have been passed separately, and the president should have vetoed it, or what do you think about it?
Well, I'm not sure that President Obama necessarily would have ever vetoed this because this seemed like something that he stood behind and something he liked, but that doesn't make it right. I guess since I understand it, and with the 30 seconds of knowledge I just gave you, how do you feel about now a private corporation, say
Like who?
like
Facebook, Google.
sure, Facebook, whoever.
I give Google more information than Facebook, but go ahead. Facebook. Let's use Facebook.
Okay, we'll say Facebook. Say
Okay.
Facebook has a digital tack on them, and in an effort to have Homeland Security help them, they just send all of your personal information, all of their users' personal information to the
Mhm.
government. Now the government has this data, and there's really no provisions on what the government can then do with that data.
What does
because
Facebook
now
get
it's
out
in
of
their
it?
position. They get help.
Oh,
essentially.
from the digital tack or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're asking how do I feel?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, how do you feel about that? Because up until now, they couldn't do that. The government would still help them, but they weren't just legally allowed to send buckets of data onward.
Are these private companies? Would they do that though?
Yeah,
They
a
do.
lot of them are behind it.
That's weird. I feel like forever they've been fighting against trying to give the government data, and at least to the to the public. And I feel like there was an uproar of that, and I thought the tech companies were like, "This is my data. You can't come and get it." The big NSA backdoor thing, kind of comes to mind when you talk about this kind of stuff. And I feel like tech companies were really against giving up their data, but now they're for it. If they
They're
get
not
help,
necessarily for it, and I wouldn't necessarily say that they are. This is something that they're 100% behind, but I think that this has more of the feeling of if they want the help, they can send it. But whereas the Patriot Act was more of, we don't care what you think, we're just going to budge our way in, and you have to let us do
Right.
this. So I think this is more of a two-way street.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in my eyes, I would see it as the U.S. government gets my data, right? But in theory, it stays in the U.S. And I know the hands who get my data, and for the most part, are semi-trustworthy and wouldn't do something terrible with my data. Theoretically, right? If you trust the government, in theory, that's kind of how you would feel. And so, if it was between giving my data to the U.S. government to do whatever they want, but I know that my chances are my information, my bank information, or whatever I give to Facebook wouldn't be given out past that, then I'd be okay with it. Versus giving it to some cyber terrorist guy who hacked into their servers and took that data. And so if it takes a big company like Facebook to say, you know what, we need help, and here's what I'm going to offer you for that help to make sure that data stays here in the U.S. and safe, then I'm all for it. If that's how this works. Is that not how, am I wrong, totally off base on how this would work?
I mean, I think in general, it is.
I think for you just don't want to see your data go anywhere that it shouldn't.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm not convinced that there's a need to send data in order to help someone
Right.
recover from a data hack. It seems kind of like a tit for tat.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I
Yeah.
don't know.
This,
Maybe that's-
I mean, this bill doesn't bother me, or this whatever rule bill doesn't bother me too much, just because of what I just said. As long as I know the U.S. government is helping to mend that breach and make sure and they pass my data on, as long as they're getting some help, is my my thing.
Yeah, and I will say that I think there's a lot of people on the internet who are flipping out about this. I think that there are bigger problems.
Isn't
with
that what the
government
internet is for?
now. Yeah, that's true. But I don't think this is as huge of a problem as
No.
people are saying. I think it's just more of it kind of sucks that this was never really discussed and
Right.
the way they passed
But
it.
but I think the bigger problem is all of tech isn't really talked about in that sense. I mean, this show we talk about, the cool stuff, the gadgets, but it's so complicated to talk about the other things, the data security and all of that stuff, right? It's just not
Yeah.
talked about because it's so hard to grasp your head around. And then for Congress to even try and grasp is just impossible because we all know Congress can't do crap. And so I don't know. That's the bigger question. And, there's bigger tech issues that should be discussed, like net neutrality and things like that. And so, I don't know.
Yeah, I think that should be an upcoming show because I think we can definitely talk about that.
And that's another Matt's Mind.
On Matt's Mind.
Well, thanks, Matt, for bringing that up.
No problem.
Always interesting to see what you choose. Sometimes you go on rants during Matt's Mind. I don't know.
Tonight
But,
you learned something new, right?
Today I learned something new. I can tell you that much.
Did
Oh.
you know about this before?
No idea.
Oh,
But I'm not
okay.
surprised that I got shoved into another bill that then got passed. If that
Yeah, that's a whole nother argument.
right, that's not our show.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, let's dive into crowdfunding.
Baby got back.
Now, I picked this. Have you looked at the rundown?
I have, but I have not clicked on the link to
Good.
watch it. 'Cause
Don't
I
click on the
wanted
link.
to wait for your explanation.
All right, so I picked this. It's kind of tech, but it's really low tech. But I picked it because I think we would all back it. So every day we brew a nice cup of coffee, right?
Yes.
You love coffee. I love coffee. Greg loves coffee. And what do we use to brew it at work?
French press.
French press. So how does a French press work? So you have hot water, right? You take your coffee grounds, you mix it around, you leave it for how long, Matt?
4 minutes.
Matt learned the other day that it stays there for 4 minutes.
I
Not
got yelled
5,
at.
not 3, 4 on the
I
dot.
said 7.
Oh yeah, not 7. So after the 4 minutes, you then take the top and you push it down, which then pushes all the grounds down, and that's how it kind of brews your coffee, right? It's kind of
Exactly.
messy. It takes a lot of stuff, but you're not using.
Damn good cup of coffee.
But it's a damn good cup of coffee. Well, along comes a new product on Indiegogo. Very exciting Indiegogo project. This product is called the American Press. It's a fitting name, right? To go against the French press. It's the American way to do it, because in America we do things the better way, right? Always. The American way is the way to go. So there's an Indiegogo project, and we'll talk about it. I'll let the developer talk about it because he does a really good job explaining it, and I think you'll like the video, man. It's called the American Press. Take a listen. Okay, well, I wish he would get to the talking part. This doesn't help our listener podcast people.
This is the American Press. Born in Chicago and raised in Detroit, it's taken nearly 5 years and every penny friends and family would lend to create it. Originally, I was inspired by solving the problem of coffee presses that were messy and frustrating to clean, and pod-based brewers that were mess-free but provided no connection with the brewing experience and generated thousands of tons of landfill waste. Along the way, I discovered the visual beauty of crafting hand-pressed coffee within an American press. Watching water transform into coffee as you press is truly unlike anything you've seen or experienced before. It's a hands-on experience that engages sight and touch in anticipation of the smell and taste of fresh brewed coffee. The coffee itself is clean and complex, with aromas and flavors preserved by forcing water through an enclosed, reusable pod and an ultra-fine metal filter. Setup is quick and easy, and because the American Press brews as you press, there's no waiting. Just press and pour. And when you're done, true to solving the original problem that inspired us, our patented reusable pod technology keeps mess contained and waste out of landfills. So the American Press is easy to clean and eco-friendly too. It also offers the hands-on control connoisseurs love. The American Press quite literally puts brewing control in your hands.
All right, so do you know what that thing is all about? Oh, wait, hold on. All right, you're back.
So I'm picturing basically a French press, but instead of the mesh plunger, you just have a container that has the mesh, but contains the coffee grounds there rather than using the filter to push them to the bottom.
Yeah, kind of. But the thing that really got me going about this it's American Press is what it's called, is that it requires 0 wait time. It's an
Yeah,
instant brew.
that seems interesting to me.
Right. So essentially, they're taking the K cups and they're making
Yeah.
them individual, but you're being allowed to press your own. So the way it works, if you're listening on the podcast, because that video is just a whole mess of marketing jumbleness, but the video looked good, right, man?
Yeah, it was a lot better than last week's.
They got going. So it's imagine a K cup, if you will, in a glass container. You fill the glass container with hot water. You then take your K cup and you put your grounds in there, just like French press. It's an enclosed capsule, so the grounds don't escape that capsule there. And then you push the capsule down through the hot water, and as you push it down, it seeps through the capsule to then give you an instant brew. And then when you're all done, you take the capsule out, you empty the capsule, and that's it. No mess inside the crevasse or the glass makings. How's that sound, huh? That's cool.
It definitely is cool. I just wonder, because when I think of French press, I think of the amount of time that it steeps with the grounds
Right.
adds flavor.
Right.
So it almost seems like by making a product that takes away that time, not to say it won't make a great cup of coffee, but then it's more like a drip, right? And less, would it have less body than?
I'm
sure some
I
coffee
think it's
drinker out there is going to yell at me that this is
Oh,
how
yeah.
you get body.
right.
But I just picture if it spends less time with the coffee, it would not have as much body.
I think because it's so concentrated. I think the amount of water versus the amount that's in that cup. Well, let's take a listen. Let's see what he says.
Traditional coffee press. And because the grounds are contained, it's also part of what makes the American press easy to clean. Simply remove the pod from the carafe, detach, and shake the spent grounds out into the trash or compost. And thanks to our specially designed seal, it's also part of what makes the American press easy to press, while still generating the pressure needed to brew a rich, complex cup of
There you
coffee
go.
in just 1 to 2 minutes. This seal is also what creates the visual magic of a column of clear water transforming into a column of rich, dark coffee as you press.
So it sounds like it's the pressure that you're applying to it, and that seal that's allowing it to kind of infuse that coffee flavor.
So it's almost like an espresso.
Kind of like an espresso.
Hmm.
All right, that's cool. Look, add hot water. Step 2, brew as you press. And 3, pour and enjoy because there's no wait time. As soon as it gets there, it's donezo. What do you think?
I
It's
think
cool.
It's cool.
All right. Well, I thought you'd be more excited since we have coffee hour. 'Cause it's
What are
clean.
Take me to pricing.
Okay.
Then I'll
Here's
give you
the,
my decision.
here's the deal. This project has already been funded. So they set a goal of $30,000. And as the recording of this podcast, they sit at $80,000. So 269%. So their flex goal is $100,000 in 18 days. I don't see them quite making that goal. But you can pretty much guarantee you're going to get the product if you back it. Because, they did pretty well. They they nearly tripled their goal. So here's the only perk that they have. Where they have a dollar one that says "You really love us," blah 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 blah. But then one we're going to talk about is a $70 gets you an American press. So $70 is $20 off the retail price once it goes on the retail market, and you'll get it in May of 2016. So a $70 American press will get you the nice, bold, rich coffee you deserve without the mess. So, Matt Kawamura, I ask you, are you going to back the project or are you going to not back it?
This is a doozy.
Or do you want me to go first? Because I
Not
think
to
you
say that
know.
your
I think you
decision's
know
made.
my answer.
Yeah, I think you're gonna back it. Why don't you
You're
go
right.
first? And then
I
I'll
will
explain.
I will back my project because I know how dirty a French press is, and I love the convenience of my K-Cup and my Keurig. So be able to combine the deliciousness of a French press and the nice cleanup job as a K-Cup and Keurig. That's why I put $70 towards this project, and I back it. $70.
That seems like a lot.
Wait, stop talking. Gosh, computer. Sorry.
That seems like a lot to me.
$70?
Yeah. And I don't want to say that this isn't a cool project because it does seem very cool. I guess I'm not convinced. And if in fact it is just a coffee to water ratio in the pressure, then that's making more of a cup of espresso. And that's not really what I look for when I'm making coffee. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess.
You seem hurt.
I'm a little hurt. I'm a little hurt.
You thought this was going to be the ace in the hole.
I thought it was going to be a clean sweep. I figured Greg was gone, clean sweep.
I think if that price was maybe at 50 or in 45,
You missed the 50 price.
I would maybe do it.
Oh, wait, there was no 50 price. 70 was the cheapest.
Yeah.
All right, so we're split then. We're split on the American press. I guess we'll have to ask Greg what he would thought, and then
Yeah, and then we'll
update
post
the
on
ratings. I can't believe it. I can't play the song. Thanks.
You can play a different song.
All right.
What's trending?
All right, it's time to get into the What's Trending segment of the week. We need something to get us laughing, something going. So, normally, what do I normally play during the segment, Matt?
YouTube video.
I usually play a YouTube video. It usually comes from a late show called
Saturday Night Live or
Jimmy Fallon. Today is going to come from good old Jimmy Kimmel. Have you ever heard
Jimmy
celebrities read mean tweets?
I have.
Well, here's
I didn't
a
know
new
they were on 9.
Here's the new edition, number 9. Celebrities read mean tweets. Jimmy Kimmel Show live from December 16th at 5.7 million views so far. Take a listen.
The internet is such a great thing. Julia Louis-Dreyfus, 50-year-old ass, still on TV and winning awards and bitch. You need to retire. Okay, I'll retire.
Sean Penn, you rude. Dumb, rude, and full of farts. You stanky Sean, real-time stinker.
Must be hard for Liv Tyler having a father that is just a giant ball sack. That's amazing.
Elizabeth Banks is a whore.
Daniel Radcliffe is one of God's most unattractive creations since the aardvark.
Kirsten Dunst's teeth bother the out of me. They look like a load of Tic Tacs throwing gang signs.
When I grow up, I hope I can be as ugly in as many different hairstyles as Jason Schwartzman.
I swear on Crip, if I see Michael B. Jordan, I'm gonna slap that mini feather duster he calls a mustache off his lip, bro.
What's the worst? Oh, it's the worst they could say. I'd rather stick a beaver in my anus than sit through Key and Peele.
Juliana Margulies is one of the finest ugly women I have seen. Thank you.
Colin Farrell in True Detective looks like he smells like depressed couch farts.
Jordana Brewster is the next Meryl Streep. If Meryl Streep was the worst actress in the world.
Kurt Russell's face is made of aged denim. I couldn't agree more.
Viola Davis's boobs look like a butt, and I think she thinks her butt boobs are an asset. There, it's not.
I have Matthew Perry syndrome. I'm a sarcastic loser with a giant head. What's the matter with my head?
Lake Bell's face is about as beautiful as a worn-out leather boot. #FugMug. Sarah Paulson is annoying when she yells, or cries, or talks, or exists. Bite me. That's how I feel about that. You can bite me in the
Marijuana work. There you go. Celebrities read mean tweets number 9, courtesy of the Jimmy Kimmel Show. That's our What's Trending.
What's Trending?
Clip of the week. What do you think?
It was good.
Solid.
I've always been a fan of those videos.
I love those videos. Our student-run TV station did a spin-off of that and had professors read tweets. That was funny.
I do remember that.
So, all right. You ready for a new segment here, Matt?
Would it happen to be this Christmas feud game?
No.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
You printed an old rundown. I told you I had to change it.
Oh.
It's okay.
I was looking forward to that.
Well, I figure you can't really do it with one person. I know the results. It'd be you versus you. That would be kind of weird.
That's
So,
fine.
we're winding down with 2015, which means the tech world has had a lot of good stuff and have had a lot of bad stuff, right? Some really terrible things that happen in the tech world. So I'm going to play a game called Epic Fail. So it's a fill in the blank game, Matt. There are 5 questions. You get 3 right, you go home with a prize.
I do?
You get not 3 right, and you lose the game. I won't tell you what the prize is, but it's going to be epic. All right. You ready?
I am ready.
Greg's not here, so good luck. Question number 1. Oh, this is all from CNN.com, by the way. Thanks, CNN. Question number 1. The blank caught fire and exploded while some consumers used it. In fact, these were removed from Amazon and Overstock.
Oh, those little not hoverboards, but those things with the 2 wheels that you put your feet on and you stand on and balance. I think they're called hoverboards, aren't they?
Judges?
Thank you.
They're called hovercrafts.
Hovercrafts.
Hovercrafts. That's okay. You got 1 point. All right. Moving on to number 2. You're on a roll. Here we go. Blank was in crisis mode after they admitted they lied to the public when it came to emission testing.
Volkswagen.
You're 2 for 2. These are too easy for you.
I'm pretty good at this.
All right. Question number 3. Amazon closed its doors to Amazon destinations this year. Did you know that thing existed?
I didn't even know.
I didn't even know that was a thing. As consumers no longer flock to blank, the company plans to lay off 1,100 people next year. Name the blank. You want me to repeat the question?
Can I have a clue? Like,
nope, no clue.
Like, I can't even. Is it like a? Is it a place?
No.
Or what's the category of the word I'm trying to come up with?
Website.
It's a website.
Mm-hmm. I'll read the question. Again, Amazon closed its doors to Amazon destinations as consumers no longer flocked to sites like blank. The company plans to lay off 1,100 people next year.
Sites like a travel site, like Expedia?
Is that your answer? Final answer. Locking it in. Lock it in. Yes?
Yeah, I'll lock it in. Yep, locked in.
Groupon.com.
Really?
Really. Apparently people are no longer going to the deal-making websites anymore. So that was Amazon's deal-making website, Amazon Destinations.
Huh.
So Groupon.com plans to lay off 1,100 people next year.
Wow.
All right, you got 2. You only need 1 more, though. So we got time. You got time.
I feel good.
All right. Blank had to suspend the Mapmaker tool after it was discovered that an illustrator drew an Android robot peeing on an Apple logo in a rural area of Pakistan. I'll read it again so you can think. Blank had to suspend the Mapmaker tool after it was discovered an illustrator drew an Android robot peeing on an Apple logo in a rural area of Pakistan.
Google Maps.
Is that your final answer, Google or Google Maps? What are you
Are
going to
they
go
different?
with?
Can't they be the same?
No.
Google Maps.
Google Maps. That's
Ah!
3. Google Maps suspended it. Have you seen this picture?
I have not
Okay,
seen
I will have to pull it up here real fast. We're going to take a break from the game, and I have to show it to you because it's hilarious. Not that one. I didn't even know you could draw on maps,
Yeah, I didn't know that was a thing.
but apparently it's a thing. Here, I'll share my
We're-
screen. It's an Android robot peeing on an Apple logo in the middle of Pakistan. So if you have a chance, go to our video. If you're listening on the podcast, go to the video and you can see the Android robot peeing on the Apple. But there you go. So that was 4, and I'll give you the last one. This one would have been easy, so you would have got it anyways. Blank got a lot of hate mail from me after it made major changes this year, especially when they went from favorites, stars, to likes,
Twitter.
hearts.
Twitter.
So you would have won the game anyways. Congratulations, Matt. You win the epic fail. I can't tell you what you win on air. We'll send it via Amazon destination. There you go.
Is it a Groupon gift certificate?
That you can no longer use.
Yeah.
I used Groupon once when I went to Hawaii for some horseback riding. I thought they
Well,
were
I think
pretty
that's
solid.
The problem is you only use Groupon once.
That's right. But there you go. Some of the fails that happened in 2015. And we'll break some of those fails down in future shows and bring you some even more bigger fails as we get closer to the new year and probably the next podcast. What do you think? You think Greg would have done well in that game?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, a few of them.
All right. We'll head into this segment.
Tech support. Question of privilege.
Today's VR question comes from Jeremy Sirigar. I think that's how you say his name, Sirigar.
Sounds right to me.
Hey guys, I use a Canon 60D to film my projects. One thing that I've never really been able to do is monitor my audio. I've been told that digital recorders like the Zoom H4n work very well, but it's outside of my budget. What are your suggestions?
So our thanks to Jeremy for asking that question on our Facebook page. And I'll let Matt take this in the beginning, as he's for those of you who don't know, Canon 60D is a DSLR, and you can shoot some really good video on that. And it's kind of the way a lot of indie filmmakers and documentary people are going with their smaller cameras like DSLRs. And one of the biggest thing is capturing audio.
So I will say before we start this that when you and I first heard this question, we interpreted it a little differently, didn't we?
We did.
Because how did you interpret it?
I don't know how I interpret it. I mean, I interpreted it as he wanted a device that would record that cost less money than a Zoom, is how I kind of took it in the first place.
Okay, because I kind of interpreted it like the problem here was that he couldn't monitor his audio. And now that I just said those words,
right,
it's kind of becoming clear in my head that my initial solution wouldn't have worked.
Oh.
But anyway, I guess it could still work because my initial solution, and it's still a solution, I guess, is to just install Magic Lantern.
Right.
Because Magic Lantern gives you the VU meters and it gives you everything you need to do your audio work.
Right.
But that's not an external device.
And I think the more that I read the question, he wasn't looking for a solution to record. He literally needed a solution to monitor. So I think your installation of the Magic Lantern is dead on in the sense of you can see the VU meters and you can kind of control it. I mean, it's very menu driven like a DSLR is, but at least you can see the VU meters.
Mm-hmm.
So then I thought, hey, he wants the monitor. Well, there's not really a good monitoring on board, so you need a little dongle, right?
Yep.
Correct me if I'm right or if I'm wrong. The the DSLR has an HDMI or composite component output, something like that?
Yeah, if I'm thinking correctly, it gives you a mini HDMI out. It
Right.
has a mic in, and then it has a composite out that you can break into RCAs.
Perfect. And so that was my solution, was installing the Magic Lantern, which is absolutely free, and it supports the 60D, so that's not a problem there. It allows you to see the VU meters. Again, you'll have to go into menus. There's no way around it. There's no physical knob that you can turn to turn the volume down. You have to go into menus, right? If you're doing it on board.
Yeah.
So then,
Yeah.
to then monitor what you're hearing is from that component output, purchase a $5-10 amplifier that takes RCA to a little 1/8-inch cord like your iPhone headphones, and then you'll be able to listen to the audio coming out.
Yeah.
$10 solution. If you want to go more, then I think the Zoom H4 is a fantastic price point and a perfect solution to be able to control audio from physical monitors, because there's nothing better than being able to control the audio physically without having to go into menus on a DSLR. So that's a really good solution. It's about $150 from B&H Video. I think I found a few that were around that same price range. The Tascam DR60D allows you to mount this unit right on the bottom, and that's pretty cool. If you're a one-man band, if you can attach as many things to your DSLR as you can to be able to control it, and you can monitor from that as well.
Yeah, and I'd have to say that if you're comparing the two, I think the Tascam is probably
by far should be the pick.
Yeah, it's just because I've mounted a Zoom to the top of my DSLR before.
It's clunky.
And between mounting the Zoom, mounting a mic,
Yeah.
it just gets all wobbly.
Yeah.
This just seems a lot more streamlined and looks a lot better just because it sits right under, and then you can run all your cords and stuff down there.
And you
don't
get
have to worry
physical
about
physical knobs right there on the front, which is again
And buttons.
which is ideal, and it's a recorder itself, just like the Zoom is. So it allows you 2 XLR plugins. I think it's got a mic jack in. But if if you're really serious about going into this kind of stuff and your shoots aren't too complicated, maybe an interview, 2-interview thing, you might want to think about getting one of these onboard DSLR-like recording, like the Tascam DR and things like that.
And the other cool thing with the Tascam that I never really noticed with the Zoom until it was a problem is with the Tascam, the screen showing you your levels is still facing you. Whereas a Zoom, if you use the tripod mount on the bottom and you mount it to the top, you have to like lean over the top of your camera in order to see your levels. So it's really inconvenient.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, to Jeremy, I would say if you want to go the cheapest route and you're just monitoring it, right? You're gonna record on board the DSLR, and hopefully you're gonna plug in a shotgun mic or something else besides the DSLR mic, because that's just atrocious and terrible. And I assume he knows that, right, and has a separate mic.
Yeah, he definitely has a shotgun mic.
Then I think going the Magic Lantern, I mean, doing the whole firmware thing, and then getting the amplifier, the headphone amplifier from RCA to 1/8 inch is kind of your best solution if you if you want to stay under $15 or so. But if you want a really good Christmas present from your parents, I think the Tascam DR that's about $150 on B&H is a really good solution, and will kind of elevate your sound to something else. Why are you laughing?
So to reiterate, if the Zoom is out of your budget,
that's what I'm saying. If you need a nice Christmas gift, is what I meant.
We recommend something marginally cheaper.
No, we gave him the option of the Magic Lantern, but we said we would recommend the Tascam, which is only $8 more than the Zoom. So get off your little high horse there and join the show.
Audio is as important as it is just as expensive, which is infuriating at points.
Right. But it's important. I mean, people listen before they watch.
Yeah. And the great thing with audio, I guess, at least for me, is that once you get the equipment, unlike video equipment, it will last. Cameras you'll change out with equipment upgrades, but audio, as long as it works, you'll pretty much use the same stuff forever. So it's a good thing to invest in.
Tech support. Question of privilege.
Well, we hope that helped. Matt didn't seem like it helped, but hopefully that helped a little. Got a tech question, want us to help? We'd be glad to. Simply email your questions to questions@bandwidthboys.com. And if you want to join us live next Sunday on the podcast, leave your Gmail address and we'll get you tuned into the show and you can ask your questions live. So go ahead and fire those questions away on our Facebook page, Bandwidth Boys Podcast, or on Twitter @GMK Podcast. Try and stump us, right, Matt? We came with a good solution. And we gave him an alternate if you wanted to spend more money than the Zoom.
Yeah. We're good at this.
That's what I'm saying. So send your questions in, questions at bandwidthboys.com, Facebook, or on Twitter. Final segment of the show. We like to call it our rants and our raves. Matt, you got one this week? We'll start with you.
I have a rant.
Okay. Shocking. Shocking, Matt has a rant.
Do you remember, what was it, last week or a few weeks ago when I talked about Walmart Pay and how I thought that was a bad idea because it would segment the market?
I think it was just last week.
So last week I talked about Walmart Pay and how I thought it was a terrible idea because it would segment the mobile payment industry, or not industry, the mobile payment sector or whatever. And I was worried that it was going to get to a point where whatever store you walked into, you would have to open their app and then use their mobile payment in order to use mobile payment. And that was a really bad idea because no one would ever use any of it because it would be too overcomplicated and then mobile payment would never take off.
All right, you can continue.
And, well, the news broke late last week that Target is also developing their own mobile payment system, which of course will be proprietary to Target, which means that if you go shopping at Walmart in the morning, you have to use the Walmart app to pay them. And if you go to Target in the afternoon, you got to use your Target app to pay them. If you stop by Starbucks in between, you got to use your Starbucks app to pay them. It's ridiculous.
I think I finally found my hallelujah.
That sucks.
Yeah.
You predicted that right out of the get-go.
Yeah, this is getting out of hand.
Who's next, Macy's? We should put money on who's next. McDonald's.
Well,
no, they're already in
no, I
Apple
don't
Pay.
think
McDonald's is good. They're
'Cause
in Apple Pay.
Yeah, McDonald's has adopted Apple Pay.
Jack in a Box.
I think we're going to see grocery stores.
Taco Bell. Munchies.
Okay.
All right. All right. Well, that's terrible. That's awful.
So we'll just see who's next. Because I'm sure next week there'll be another one.
And Matt will have that as a different rant.
Yep.
All right. Time for my rant. So, I had to drive my family over Snoqualmie Pass. Well, first, can I do two? I'm going to do a rave and a rant. Same topic, that's why.
Fine.
Rave, rant. First, I'm going to start with my rave. Had to drive my family over Snoqualmie Pass. We live in Pullman. We're now in Seattle for Christmas vacation to see my in-laws. Snoqualmie Pass, beautiful, perfect. So the WashDOT, thank you. Raving about Snoqualmie knows how to do it. Snoqualmie WashDOT knows how to clear the damn roads. You know who doesn't know how to clear the damn roads? Pullman.
Pullman?
Pullman. Learn something from Snoqualmie WashDOT. So thank you, Snoqualmie WashDOT, for keeping my family safe. All right, that was my rave. Now my rant. Shockingly, it's not on Pullman's snow removal, although it kind of segued that way. So we were driving over from Pullman, and we were on 26, apparently one of the most dangerous stretches of road in Washington State. Whatever. So it wasn't that bad. It was we were in Whitman County, and so the roads weren't, I couldn't go 70. I had to go like 40 or 45 because there was some snow on the road. We were probably, 20 minutes outside of Whitman County when all of a sudden, on a countryside road, I see this white truck coming at really quick speeds. And if you know the country roads, you know they are worse than Highway 26 because they're not plowed. They're just kind of smushed down with whoever drives over, right? So out of the corner of my eye, I see this big white truck. I'm like, oh, well, it's going pretty fast, but, I'm going 40. What are you going to do? So as I approach this little stop sign for them and not me, I'm on 26, major interstate, driving. I see this FedEx truck not stopping. In fact, it's still going at the same speed I saw it when I first saw it out of the corner of my eye. So I had to slam on my throttle, accelerator, whatever you call it, and speed pass and swerve into the next lane to avoid a FedEx truck who couldn't stop. I have a family of 6. Nearly died. In fact, I probably pooped my pants and had to go change my pants when I got to the next rest stop. So to you FedEx truck driver who was going way too fast on a side country road, you suck. That's my rant.
Did you make eye contact with him as you were swerving past?
I think I was closing my eyes. No. I made eye contact with no one. I just kind of got there, and in my rear view, we got past, and nothing really bad happened. I didn't spin out or anything. Yeah. But in my rear view mirror, I could see the FedEx guy pull over, and he was probably saying a few Hail Marys or puking or something. But damn you, you're on a countryside road. Slow down, damn it.
Weather was awful.
It was terrible. And I have to head back on Wednesday.
It's supposed to be even worse this week.
Maybe I'll just hang out in Seattle for a few days.
Yeah, I was doing the math. Spokane's supposed to see like a foot of snow over the next few days.
Oh my gosh.
So have fun. Watch out for those white FedEx trucks.
So I'm going to avoid FedEx trucks is essentially what's going to happen.
Yeah.
All right. There's our rants and our raves this week. Not too bad. I had one rant, so that was good. And one rave. And Matt's just jaded in general. So what you're going to do.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't wrong.
You weren't wrong. You were right.
I called it, and here it is.
Yes. Quick note before we say goodbye. We're just a new thing we're starting. We started it last Monday, but every weekday we upload a 1-minute quick little podcast to give you kind of 2 quick tech headlines of the day. So we call it the Bandwidth Boys Quick Hit. So if you want to subscribe to that, make sure you log on to your favorite podcast app and subscribe to the Bandwidth Boys, and you'll be able to hear our quick hits every day. Usually we upload it around 8 a.m., so you can know what's going on in the tech world before you head out for the day. Really 1-minute thing. It's pretty quick. So there you go.
Yeah.
Bandwidth Boys Quick Hits.
And with that, we close the book on another episode of Bandwidth Boys podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. If you missed us live, don't worry. You can download and listen to our podcast by using iTunes or your favorite podcast app, including Stitcher.
Bandwidth Boys Podcast. Facebook, Bandwidth Boys Podcast. Twitter, @GMK Podcast. Web, bandwidthboys.com. Bandwidth Boys Podcast.
And with that, I'm Matt.
And I'm Connolly.
We'll talk to you next week. Same time, same place, same old shenanigans right here on the Bandwidth Boys podcast. Keep on teching on.